that. Okay, another thing is you got to check what daily, Pedro? What do you got to check daily? Pedro, what do you got to check every day?
What you said, Miss?
What do you have to check every day?
Our home thing to see our homework.
School works, yes. You need to see that every day. That's why I sent out the message yesterday about the problem with the quiz. So I'd asked you to go ahead and start working on Chapter 8 review. And we'll go on. We'll talk about the quiz and stuff more later. With the quizzes, if I give you a time frame to take the quiz in, please be responsible enough to make sure you do it in that time frame. Okay, because like other classes have had quizzes already. I'll say it needs to be done by 8 o'clock tonight, and then they'll try to log in at 9:30. It won't let me in. Well, no, it's not going to let you in. It's after 8 o'clock. Okay, so please, when I know you've had quizzes, I think already for vocabulary and spelling, so you know that you can't try to go out, go in, go out, go in. Once you've in, you've got to take the quiz, otherwise it'll just grade it the way it is. So be careful with all that as well. Okay, now what we're going to try to work through today is our last section that we're doing in Chapter 8. Okay, you'll notice we're skipping 8.6. 8.6 was the constructions where you had to like draw the circles and the stuff with the circles. Can't really do that right now with trying to do it online and stuff, so we're not doing that section. So Javier, we just talked about everybody needs to be on time and needs to be where their camera can be seen. Okay, now, so we're skipping to section 8.7. So section 8.7 is on pages 389 and 390. That's where we're going to be working on. It's on page 389 and 390. We're going to be trying to get through 1 through 13. Okay. Then 16 through 24 even. 28, 31, 34 through 37. Okay, we're going to try to get through as many of them together as we can, and then whatever we don't finish, then we'll talk about it at the end of class, whether we'll finish them up tomorrow or whatever. Okay, so looking on here, for the first part, I've got up here at the top of the board your formula for your center. Okay, our formula for the equation of a circle on the coordinate plane. The formula for the equation of a circle on the coordinate plane is x minus h in parentheses squared plus y minus k in parentheses squared equals r squared. So it's kind of similar to our Pythagorean theorem. You have your x squared part plus your y squared part equals your r squared part. This is like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's kind of similar to that. The h and the k are the coordinates of the center of the circle. Remember, the center of the circle is the dot exactly in the middle. Coordinates, remember, when you label a coordinate, your first number tells you your x, which tells you left or right. Yeah, right up here. First number tells you your x, which is left or right. Your second number is your y, which tells you down. And then the radius is the length from the center to the circle. So we're just going to count how many blocks that is. Okay. Now there's some of you that I still have a hard time seeing on here because you're trying to sit in the dark so you can hide. That's not going to cut it for me today. Don't try. All right. So we're going to start working on number 1 and number 2. On number 1 and number 2, it gives you the center of the circle and it gives you the radius. So when we go to do the equation, we take those things and we simply plug them in to this formula right here. So when you go to do the equation, on your center, this is the h, this is the k. And then this is your radius, your r. So all we're going to do is we're going to plug them in. So I'm going to fix these. I'm going to have x minus h. So x minus 0 squared plus parentheses y minus 0 squared equals 25 squared. So the first step was just plugging them in. I plugged in my h, I plugged in my k, I plugged in my radius. Now we need to try to simplify. If I take x minus 0, I still just get x. So I'm going to have x squared plus, if I take y minus 0, I still just get y. So I'm going to have y squared equals, and then 25 squared is equal to what?
$225.
625.
625.
So close.
So that is your equation, okay? We label, this is our H, this is our K, this is our R, we're plugging them into the formula. We simplify it, we got our equation, we're done. Okay, so that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all are. You plug them in, you simplify, you're done. So let's work on number 2 together. In the first parentheses, I have x minus what? What goes here?
0.
0. And then for here, I'm going to have y minus
7.
7. And then my r is 10 squared. Okay? That looks really ugly. Let's do it. All right. So now we can simplify. X minus 0 is still just x. So that part's still just x squared. On this one, I can't simplify that because can you actually subtract y and 7? We can't subtract that. So I have y minus 7 in parentheses squared. That part stays in the parentheses. And then here, 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. Okay? That's what you do with those. Okay? Now you'll notice I skipped to number 5. So that means you'll have to try to go back probably and do 3 and 4 on your own. I skipped to number 5. Okay? Yes? All right. So looking at number 5, I'm going to label my stuff. This is my H. This is my K. I already have my R, so I'm plugging them still into the same equation. So I have x minus 3 parentheses squared, because H goes in the first parentheses, plus y minus negative 1 in parentheses squared equals the R squared. And I wrote my R in parentheses this time because I want to make sure I actually square both parts. I got to square the whole thing. So when I go to do that, x minus 3. I can't simplify x minus 3, so I just write it down. X minus 3 squared plus. Now on the y, I had y minus a negative. When I have minus a negative, it becomes what?
Positive.
Positive. So it will become y plus 1 squared. And then now I've got to square this part. So when you go to square this part, you square each part individually. So 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4.
4.
Square root of 3 squared, square root of 3 times square root of 3 is square root of 9, but what's the square root of 9?
3.
3. So basically this, when I square it, I end up with 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is
12.
12. So that's my equation for number 5. But that's why I wanted to skip and go ahead and do that one because it was a little bit more complicated with our negative and our square roots in there. Okay. Let's do number 6. Number 6, this is H, this is K, I have my R. So I have x minus what goes in with the x? The 9 or the 4?
Negative 9.
Negative 9, so x minus negative 9 squared plus y minus
-4.
-4 squared equals 3 square root of 5 squared. And then we're ready to go simplify. When I have minus and negative, it becomes a
Positive.
positive. So this becomes x plus 9 squared plus minus a negative becomes positive, y plus 4 squared. And then on this one, we got to do the same that we did on number 5. 3 squared is 9. Square root of 5 squared is square root of 25, but that equals 5. So what's 9 times 5?
45.
45. So that's your equation for number 6.
Got that
Okay.
right.
So far, hopefully these shouldn't be that bad, right? Yes, we're good? Okay.
Yep.
Everybody got those? We're rolling, rolling.
Yes.
All right. Now we're looking at these. These are going the opposite direction. On these, it's giving you the problem in the book with the picture. It's giving you the picture in the book, and you're having to tell me what the center is and what the radius is. Center, remember, is the dot in the center of the circle. So you look at the graph, you look at the dot, and remember when you're doing it, your first number, your H is always the right or left from the origin, and your second number is always the up or down from the origin. Okay, so it's the right or left or the up or down. So looking at number 8, the center dots, are looking at the graph in your book. Yes, I know I skipped number 7, but it's easier. I'm doing the 2 harder ones. In a few minutes, I'm going to have you go back and try the ones we skipped. Okay? So we're on there. So for that, you go how many units to the right to get to where that center is? You're counting on the boxes. 1, 2, 3 to the right, and then how many down to get to the center?
2.
2. Since it was going down, is it a positive 2 or a negative 2?
Negative.
Negative 2. So I have 3, negative 2 is my center. Then my radius is how far from that point to the actual circle. So you can pick any direction you want to count. You can count up, you can count to the right, you can count to the left, you can count down. I usually just count to the right from the center. So starting at my center, I count over how many places it's going to be till I get on the circle to the right. So it goes 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box, 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3. Yep, 4 boxes over to the right. So my radius is 4. So after you have your center and your radius, you can write the equation like we did on 1, 2, 5, and 6. We plug them in. Okay? So you're going to have x minus 3 squared plus y. Now, when I go to do minus on that, it's minus a negative again, so we know it's going to end up making it what?
Positive.
Positive, so y plus 2 squared equals 4 squared, which is
4. 16.
16. Okay? So we had to find the center and our radius on our own from looking at the graph, and then we still plug them into the equation formula. So we're going to do the same thing on number 9. On number 9, from the origin to get to the center, do I go to the right or to the left?
To the right.
I said left.
It goes to the left to get over to the center dot. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. So my H is negative 4. And then do I go up or down?
Down.
Down 1. So my K is negative 1. So my center's at negative 4, negative 1. Then from that center point, I'm going to count back over to the right till I get to the circle line. So it goes over 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. So my radius is
3.
3. And then we're ready to plug them into the equation. So when we're plugging into the equation, remember, the first one is your H, the second one is your K. H goes with the X, K goes with the Y. So for the first parentheses, I have X minus -4. Since it's minus -4, it becomes
Positive.
+4. For my Y, I have Y minus K, so Y minus -1 becomes Y plus 1. And then I have the radius squared. 3 squared is 9.
9.
That's your equation for the circle. Okay? So that's what you do if it gives you the circle and you have to find the equation. Now we'll go ahead and talk about the next part, and then we'll go back and talk about ones that we've skipped. Okay?
Okay.
Now for 10, 11, 12, and 13, because you notice it went 1 through 13, and then we skip over to 16. For 10, 11, 12, and 13, it wants us to sketch each circle. Okay? So if we're going to sketch the circle, we have to be able to find the center of the circle and the radius of the circle from the given equation. So that's what we're doing first. We're looking at our equation. Does this one have a number here with the X?
No.
If it doesn't have a number with the X, then it's like what we had on number 1 and number 2. The X number, the H was
0.
So that means it doesn't go to the left or right any, it stays right there. Why did I write that like that? All right. The X is this, the H is 0. What's my Y gonna be? What number's here?
1.
1. So my center is gonna be 0, 1. My radius, remember this is equal to the radius squared, so the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. What's the square root of 16?
4.
4, so my radius is 4. So when you go to sketch these, you don't have to draw this big, huge coordinate plane or anything, okay? It does not have to be big. I'm just going like 5 or 6 in every direction. No, that's not spaced at all. All right, so I've got coordinate plane sketched. There you go. Okay, we've got a coordinate plane sketched. My center was 0, 0. So this means it doesn't go left or right any, it goes up 1. So my center is right there at 0, 1. Now my radius was 4. So that means from my center, I go 4 units in every direction. So I'm going to go 4 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. I'm going to go 4 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. I'm going to go 4 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. And then 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and put a dot. And now here comes the fun part, is trying to connect these where it looks something like a circle. Because, you know, we can't draw, so. And you draw your circle. It just looks a little squished, so that's not too bad. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do on 10, 11, 12, and 13. We have to look at our equation. We have to find our center, our H and our K from the equation. We have to find our radius by taking the square root of the constant in the equation and then use those to draw the circle. Okay. Everybody getting number 10 down?
So, Miss Pelham, every time we get our radius, we have to, what do you call it? Times it by 2?
Well, when we have the radius, we squared it to get the answer. So the opposite of squaring is taking the square root.
Root.
So what times itself equals 16? Or if
Or,
it was 9, what times itself equals 9? You're doing the square root.
Okay.
All right, y'all ready for number 11?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's work on number 11. Ready to go up. There we go. All right. So we're doing the same concept. We're looking for our H and our K, our center first. So our H is the number with the X. Now remember in our formula, it's usually a minus. When did we end up with a plus sign? When the H was what? Like on number 9, we ended up with a plus sign here because it was a what? A negative. So if for this to be a plus sign, the H has to be a negative 2, okay? Whatever sign you have here, your number is going to be that opposite because it had the minus in the formula. Now for our Y, do we have a number for our K if there's nothing there?
put a 0.
So you put a 0. So our center is at -2, 0. And then to find our radius, if this is 9, I take the square root of 9, and it's going to be
3.
3. So then we're ready to sketch our little graph. Again, these don't have to be real big because the okay. Now the reason I made it a little bit farther on my left-hand side is because I see that my center goes farther to the left-hand side. So that's why I went ahead and made it where it's a little bit farther over. Now my center was at -2, 0. So from the origin, I go 2 to the left and 0 units up. So that's my center of my circle. Now after you have your center of your circle, you use your radius and you go the 4 directions. You're going to go up, you're going to go to the right, you're going to go down, and you're going to go to the left. 3 from the center. You go all 4 directions. So from here, I go up 1, 2, 3, put a dot. Go back to the center, go to the right, 1, 2, 3, put a dot. Go back to the center. From there, I go down 3, put a dot. From the center, go left 3, put a dot. So after you have those dots, then you connect them as best you can where it looks somewhat like a squish circle, but it's supposed to be a circle. Okay, hopefully yours doesn't look too squished, but okay. Got 2 more of these and then go back and talk about the other stuff. Okay, so on number 12, it's a little bit more complicated because it's got stuff in the parentheses with both the X and the Y. So it's going to be a little bit more to it. So we still have to find our center and our radius. To find our center, you look at the first term of our center is this number. Since it has a +1 here, my H is actually a -1. Now, since this is a negative here, then that means this is still going to be a positive, so it's going to be at -1, 5 for my center. Now, for my radius, what is the square root of 4?
2.
2. So the square root of 4 is 2. So I put a 2 there. Now, again, I always look at my center to see where I need to draw my coordinate plane. This one starts way up higher. So do I need stuff really at the bottom?
No.
No, because my radius is small. I just need a tall y-axis. So when I'm going to draw my graph, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a taller y-axis. Just go up higher this way. But it's not going to go very far to either side. Why didn't you do that? Okay. So it's getting a little bit more like that. Now when we go to do our center, it was -1, 5. So the -1 tells me I go 1 to the left, and then the 5 tells me I go up 1, 2,
5.
3, 4, 5. I was making sure I kept it right. So this is my center of my circles. Now from the center, we use the radius and we go up to the right, down, and to the left. So we can get 4 points that we can use to connect and draw our circle. So from here, my radius is 2. I go up 2 units, put a dot. I go right 2 units, put a dot. I go down 2 units, put a dot. I go left 2 units, put a dot. And then we try to connect those best we can to get a circle. Okay? Am I getting that one down? Okay, so the last one that we're doing of that kind is number 13. It's actually, even though it's got a fraction, the X and Y part's easier because do you have any number with the X or the Y?
No.
So if there's no number with the X or the Y, then that's going to be like what you had on number 1. That means the center is at the origin 0, 0. The center will be at the origin 0, 0. Okay? Now, for my radius, I have to take the square root of this number. So we're going to take the square root of each part of the number. Okay? So when we take the square root of 49, that is 7. When we take the square root of 9, that is 3. So it's 7/3. We take the square root of the top, square root of the bottom. Now, it's kind of hard to tell where I go for 7/3 on my coordinate plane. So I'm going to change it to a mixed number so it's a little bit easier to get closer to where it's supposed to be. 3 goes into 7 how many times?
2.5? 2.5?
2 with 1 left over. So it's 2 1/3.
Oh.
Okay, so my center is at the origin. And then I'm going to go 2 1/3 in each direction. So I don't have to draw this very big at all. Basically, I'm just going to 3 in each direction on my coordinate plane. My origin was the center, so I'm at the right there. I go 2 and a little bit over, because that's what 1/3 is going to be, and put a dot. I go 2 and a little bit over, because that's 1/3. I go 2 and a little bit over, that's 2 1/3. I go 2 and a little bit over, because that's 2 1/3. So you just have to kind of guesstimate when it gives you the mixed number. And then, whoops, that's going to be, and then you go around and draw your circle. Okay? So you need to make sure that you at least have 10, 11, 12, and 13, the 4 where we drew them, you have those down. And then we're going to be ready to go on to the evens on 16 through 24, if you don't have any others. Okay. Now, what did you all try to do number 3 and number 4 yet? Yes or no?
No.
No? And also number 7?
Mm-mm.
So
Mm-mm.
let's just try, you need to make sure you do 3, 4, and 7. And then you try those 3 on your own, and then we'll work on finishing this up. Now, you also need to continue, if you haven't already, we'll work on this more tomorrow. If you have not done any of the chapter 8 review yet, I would suggest at least trying to start on that, okay? Especially the first part. Tomorrow, we will try to finish this section. So you've got to do number 3, 4, and 7 on your own though. So have those 3 done. Then we'll try to finish this section. And then we will talk about some stuff from the review. And hopefully by then we'll have the quiz thing figured out and I can talk to you about your quizzes. Because this is the last section of chapter 8. So we've got quizzes and then we're also going to have what coming up?
Test.
Tests, yes. We're going to have tests. Okay. Is everybody good with that? You know what you got to work on? Yes? We're good? Okay. All right. So we need to work on that. If you have any other questions or anything for me, then you can stay on and ask. Remember, we only have class this week, 3 days via Zoom. My fingers got marker all over it. We only have Zoom 3 days this week. Today and Wednesday, we have Thursday. Friday is Good Friday, so we already had it on the calendar that we didn't have school. So Mr. Wyndham said we still don't have Zoom. On Monday, it's called Easter Monday. I see you, Pedro. Calm down over there. All right. On Monday, we have, it's called Easter Monday. We were scheduled to already be off too. So we won't have Zoom on Monday, but we don't use it on Monday anyway. So make sure you know what you got to do between now and then. Like I said, if you want to try to show pictures of your work that you've done, so I can see you've been following along, then that's good. If you want to email it to me. If not, when I get to the point later this week or the first next week, you'll have to just hold it up to the camera so I can see them. But that way I make sure I give you credit for actually participating and following along in class, because that's going to help you all when you're struggling with quizzes and stuff. Okay? Because I can't really actually do regular tutoring or anything right now. So, all right. Everybody knows which 3 they have to work on their own?
Yes.
Number 3, number 4, and number 7. Make sure you finish those. Work on the chapter 8 review or start the chapter 8 review. And then I'll see you all tomorrow at 11.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Pedro. Why do you keep doing chat instead of just talking?